Hi guys, welcome back or welcome to Switch to Life, and in today's video we're going to be looking at Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken and the possibility of this movie getting a sequel. We'll be discussing my thoughts and opinions on how the sequel should be handled. We'll be discussing my thoughts on if the sequel will even happen and the possibility that DreamWorks might not ever make a sequel to Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken. So with that intro out of the way, let's start the video.
Soon, everyone will know the truth. Cushions.
Okay, one last thing. There will be spoilers for the first movie in this video. You have been warned. DreamWorks is really famous for making a bunch of animated movies and quality animated franchises, something that Disney just hasn't seemed capable of doing until Frozen. Some of their most popular franchises include Shrek, Madagascar, Kung Fu Panda, which is about to get its fourth movie, How to Train Your Dragon, which is about to get a live-action remake. I've already made my thoughts and opinions in a video, linked down below, and Trolls, which is about to get its third movie. Along with this, they make some really great TV shows, some based off of franchises they turned into movies, and some based off of brand new properties. But unfortunately, we won't be talking about them. Instead, we'll be talking about the possibility that Ruby Gillman could become a franchise. And to that, I have to say, I would enjoy watching this series continue. So when would this movie release? Well, DreamWorks likes to take their time because, animation movies takes a long time. They typically do a sequel 3 to 5 years after a movie releases. So we could see this movie be released in 2026 at the earliest, but I think the more realistic date would be 2027. I liked the first movie. It wasn't perfect, far from it, but it was really interesting, and I liked the concept, and if anything, a sequel has so much potential because this movie was kind of a letdown, but there is tons of potential for sequel material. They literally left the door open for a pretty good sequel that I will go into detail right now. So the movie ended with Ruby discovering that she is a Kraken princess destined to take over the throne from her grandmama. And at the very end of the film, Grandmama and Abigail are talking about a coronation for Ruby, but they decide to not go through with it until later, and I think that this second movie could pick up during the later, when they do crown Ruby as the queen. But here's the thing, Ruby might not want to be queen. What's great about being a Kraken is she can be herself and be free, but at the same time, she also likes her human life and her human friends. If she becomes queen, maybe there's a curse. What if, in order to become queen, she has to forever give up her ability to turn small, and she remains a giant Kraken forever? I mean, we never really see Grandmama turn human, and while that could just be due to the fact that she doesn't really want to, we don't actually have to limit it to that. It could be that maybe Grandmama is incapable of turning into a human since she became the queen. So really, this is a conflict because Ruby wants to be the queen of the Krakens because it is her destiny.
You are not a human who turns into a Kraken. You're a Kraken hiding as a human. Once you know what you're capable of, you'll want to be the next Kraken queen. It's your birthright. And fight as you might, fight as you will, you can never outswim your destiny.
I literally could not have said it better. Thank you, Grandmama. But I do believe that maybe there is potential here, especially if we introduce a brand new villain in the form of, well, a brand new sea monster. We already had mermaids in the first movie be the villain in the form of Chelsea, although, now that I think about it, Chelsea was the only mermaid in the movie. What if there is a secret plot where the mermaids spring her out of whatever prison she is trapped in? I don't know, what do you do with a mermaid when you put her in prison? Anyway, Chelsea escapes, and now combining an army of mermaids, she is going to attack the Kraken when she finds some way to defeat them, since she lost the power of the trident, which is the only weapon that can defeat a Kraken, so to speak. And I know what some of you are thinking. Wouldn't Chelsea be a good villain to get a redemption arc? And to that I have to say, no, definitely not. What's really wrong with Chelsea is she doesn't really have any motive. Unlike Tai Lung, who just wants to make his father happy, all Queen Nerissa or Chelsea wants is to rule the ocean instead of the Kraken, and she doesn't care who gets in her way. She also wants revenge against a specific Kraken for destroying her legacy. Even if there was a villain who was more evil than Chelsea, I really don't think that she would be redeemed. But at the same time, I also don't want Queen Nerissa to be the villain of the second movie because that would just be a bit repetitive. Instead, I think the mermaids should work with a brand new sea monster species, maybe the Leviathans or something brand new like Loch Ness Monster or something. But just a brand new sea monster that wants to destroy the Krakens more so than the mermaids do, and they work together to spring Nerissa out so that she can do something that will help the sea monsters or the main villain of this movie become powerful enough to stop the Krakens. And it would be really interesting to see, especially if the sea monsters ended up betraying Chelsea. So to recap, I want Chelsea to have a major part in the movie, but I don't want her to get a redemption arc, and I don't want her to be the main villain. Instead, I think she should just be working with the sea monster, only for the sea monster to betray her and kill her, and now the Kraken and the mermaids have to work together to destroy all of the sea monsters who are the main villains of the movie. And after that, they realize that they have a lot in common, and while Chelsea herself wouldn't be redeemed, the mermaid species as a whole could be redeemed. One thing that I really want to see in this movie, however, is something that wasn't really present in the first movie, that being Ruby's human life. We don't really see that much of Ruby interacting with her friends, and we don't see that much of Connor or Ruby interacting with Connor. It's like the second she turns into a Kraken, her teenage life takes a backseat. And to that, I have to say that was disappointing when I first watched the movie. But here's something that the sequel can do better. I mean, it's already got a plot point of balancing between Ruby's Kraken life and her human life. So by focusing on her human life and what she would be saying goodbye to if she decided to become the Kraken Queen, it would be a really good plot point and something that I would really love to see in the sequel. But I also want to see more of Ruby's Kraken life as well, especially how she interacts with her subjects when she is having panic attacks, because she has to become the leader of a ton of people. So here's the thing. She's already a great tutor with Connor, and if she applies that same strategy to ruling the Kraken, she might be able to become a good queen. And eventually, Grandmama and Abigail might see that and try to coronate her. That would be a really interesting plot point, especially if Ruby just keeps panicking every time she sees her subjects.
What now?
Ruby, you're a princess. Address the crowd.
I think I am having a panic attack.
So she can go in with the confidence that she has going into a tutoring session with Connor and hanging out with her friends, or maybe muster up some confidence from those experiences, and that's how she can become a great queen by the end of the movie. However, I also want to see one thing happen in order for Ruby Gillman to ascend to the throne. I think it would be a great idea if Grandmama died near the end of the movie. Spoilers ahead for How to Train Your Dragon 2, but remember when Stoic died in How to Train Your Dragon 2? It not only made for a very sad scene, but it was also one of the best animated movies that became one of the greatest animated trilogies. And to be honest, How to Train Your Dragon 2 is my favorite movie of all time. If we got a scene similar to that, where Ruby has to ascend to the throne in order to take up her deceased grandmama and try to live up to her name and legacy in the third movie, if there is a third movie, it would be really awesome. And to be honest, this movie is literally just her coronation and her trying to come to terms with the fact that in order to become queen, she has to say goodbye to her human form. That's the character development I want to see in this movie. And if a third film is made, I want to see what she is like as a queen to her subjects. And I know I'm going to be forgetting some stuff here, like maybe a B plot for her family to figure out something, but to be honest, I think that it's best that the B plot be figured out by the people who actually made this movie instead of just a random fan. So, all in all, I'd say that Ruby Gillman has potential for a great sequel and probably a great trilogy if I'm being honest. But here's the thing, could we actually see this sequel? Is it possible that DreamWorks would even make this? Well, let's take a look at the facts. While DreamWorks is known for making some really successful franchises, the launch point has to be that a good, successful film needs to be made. It not only needs to be critically received and audience received well, but at the same time, it also needs to have a great source of income. And unfortunately, I just don't see either of those happening with Ruby Gillman. Sure, it's great with audience views, but to be honest, the critics don't seem to like it, and the worst thing it's got going for it, Ruby Gillman has actually set a box office record for the wrong reason. Turns out Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken has the lowest 3-day opening weekend for any DreamWorks movie. This was previously held by Sinbad Legend of the Seven Seas, and while they did want to make sequels for that, they never did because of the low box office numbers. Oh, and just so you know, Sinbad has held that record for almost 20 years. It would have been 20 if it weren't for the fact that the 20th anniversary of Sinbad was the day after Ruby Gillman's opening weekend. And unfortunately, I fear a similar fate will happen to Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken, because while a sequel might actually be in the works, if this film doesn't do financially well, then there is not going to be a sequel. DreamWorks will instead move forward with another franchise, like The Bad Guys. That was both audience, critical, and financially successful. Not to mention that they already have plans for sequels as confirmed by the director of the movie. So yeah, I hate to say this, but unfortunately, I don't really see Ruby Gillman as one of those films that you should purchase tickets to. I mean, sure, it's a good film, but it's not great. And to be honest, it does have issues, but I mean, I want this film to be successful, but at the same time, I don't want people to be wasting their money for a movie that they can eventually watch when it comes to streaming. So with that in mind, I think this video will go down as a what if instead of a full-on prediction for a sequel, because we might never get that sequel to see the light of day if we don't go purchase tickets. And at the same time, I don't want you guys to waste your money for this movie. But hey, maybe they can do the abominable approach and just turn this into a TV show. That worked. So, what do you guys think? Will this movie actually get released, or would you even want it to be released? If it was, what are some ideas that you think would help make for a good sequel? Leave your thoughts down below in the comments. Until next time, I hope you guys are staying safe out there. Remember to subscribe if you want to keep up to date on all things DreamWorks, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.
Oh, we should get going. Or, like, die. Your call.